Hello, and welcome back to Objects of New York, a podcast where we talk about New Yorkers and objects that we love. In case you haven't heard this podcast before, on each episode, I sit down with a special guest and we have a chat about the stuff that they have that they love, whether it's something they found on the street or bought from the thrift store or inherited from a weird relative. This podcast is all about celebrating the objects in our lives. I'm really excited for this episode. I got to sit down with my friend James, who I've known since 2012. We went to the same drama school together. And he had a rather, how shall I put this, dramatic return to New York City recently. So his story is a little unique, and I'm excited to share it. So without further ado, here is James Solar.
When did you move to New York?
So the first time would have been 2014, January of 2014, after our lovely stint in London.
Right.
And then I moved out of there 2019. So I was there for about 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then I came back December 29th. And then I moved into this place at the end of January. So January 29th, let's call it.
But this wasn't the place that you were supposed to move into.
No. This was so I got very ill. I had landed another apartment over in Brooklyn Heights, which honestly, I'm glad I got sick because it was one of those things where I was like, kind of okay with the apartment. It was going to be functional. And then I felt good about losing it. And then found this wonderful, beautiful little place in Kensington that is like 3 times the size.
But to be clear, you found this place while you were in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Browsing Zillow? Or were you just in the hospital room?
No. My mother was very insistent that I had a place like ready to go and lined up immediately upon leaving the hospital, which got delayed by about a week and a half.
Can you just, why were you in the hospital?
Yeah, I was in the hospital because I got a very simple and easy illness that I think anybody can get, really. Mostly children, I learned. Adults do not get this illness. Bacterial meningitis.
I just want to get the timeline straight. So you moved back to New York December 29th.
December 29th.
You're here for like a week.
Oh, yeah.
You contract bacterial meningitis.
In the hospital by January 11th.
God.
Went down like a submarine that had been stomped on by Godzilla. Is that his name?
We're going to stick with that.
Yeah, we're going to go with that. I don't know why that was the metaphor that came out, but
I think it is a metaphor.
It is now. Was in the hospital from the 11th to, I think, like 28th or 29th.
Yeah.
So that's why I lost the apartment. And then the week before I had surgery, I was supposed to leave.
Brain surgery.
Right? Craniotomy.
Like the best surgery you can have.
The simplest.
Yeah.
And so the day of the surgery, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. She was like, you're going to do this. And I said, I really don't want to do this. Everybody left. I couldn't sleep. So I opened up my phone, and in 3 swipes of an index finger, I found this place. And I was like, I know nothing about this area. I know nothing about where I'm going. It's 20 minutes to my office. Let's fucking do it. And that's how I landed this apartment.
So did you just purchase the apartment rental on your phone? Or?
Oh, yeah.
That's how it works.
I hit the button. The lady said, you're approved. And I was like, cool. BT dubs, I'm going into surgery tomorrow. Can't pick up the keys.
Yeah.
Hope that's cool. And she was like, great. We'll leave it in a lockbox for you.
Was it actually, I know you're telling a story, which is great, but was it actually that simple?
It was actually that simple.
What?
It was actually that simple, straight up. I told her, I said, hey, I actually almost rented an apartment through your colleague. She has all my information. I'm in the hospital. Can you just get it from her? And she was like, well, I need some confirmation that you are who you say you are.
Did you send a selfie from the hospital?
I 100% did.
No way.
I took a selfie with my ID next to it.
No way, dude.
And then I zoomed in on the ID and I sent it to her, and she was like, great. You are who you say you are.
She's like not bothered by this at all. She's a New York real estate agent. Yeah.
This had been on the market for a whopping 6 hours. It was like, basically, it went on at midnight. I sent her these things. At 8 a.m. the next morning, she was like, great, it's yours.
Wow. I mean, you just basically nailed it.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
And you didn't see the apartment. You just went ahead and rented it. I thought I was pretty pretty sly and crafty with the way I approach New York real estate and like getting my apartment rented so quickly.
Oh my God, and your place is amazing. And for the readers at home, go to Ellyn's place on Instagram. You will see everything about it.
I like that you refer to the listeners as readers. It's good. It's really, I like that.
You also said readers?
Did I?
You 1,000% did.
Oh, good.
I was just,
keeping the through line. No, seriously though, you've taken New York real estate renting game to a new level. When me and Sue and Sarah moved you in, I was like, oh, this is great. So James did a great job finding this place. This is so amazing. And Sarah was like, oh, he hasn't seen it. Like this is the first time.
Yeah.
So I remember I was unpacking the stuff that you had ordered because he is medically not allowed to like raise his blood pressure at all, which means he can't lift anything over like what, 10, 20 pounds?
It's 10 pounds. 10 pounds I can do anything. It's not just my blood pressure. I've got by the way, all readers at home, you're apparently all on my HIPAA now. There's a catheter that runs up my arm. It sits right on top of my heart. So I can't lift anything above 10 pounds on just one side. So I can do it on my right side. Right. Which is like super not functional.
So you're saying I didn't have to move you in and you could have just lifted all that stuff up by yourself?
Baby, listen. I'm so weak. I'm just an invalid.
I remember I was unpacking your kitchen items. And I'm unpacking your plates, fine. Cups, fine. Mugs, fine. And then I unpack
the best thing in the world.
What can only be described as a science fiction interpretation of flatware, which is like, I'm looking at a purple fork right now. And it's one of those forks where you know that the more you run it through the dishwasher, the purple will come off.
When I run it through the dishwasher, it actually sparkles back up. It like gets its own.
Is that what happens? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So
it is.
I think the most incredible feature about these forks is just like the kind of menacing quality. You could kill a man.
You can fucking kill somebody with these.
Kill a man with these forks.
Which, to be fair, when advertised, that's not what they look like.
And when I texted you, because this is when you could text again, I said something about your forks, and you said, "Well, this is what happens when you order things on morphine."
So this is the one thing I tell. Anybody: always decorate your apartment and get stuff on morphine.
What is your favorite thing that you bought in your apartment that you ordered while you were on morphine?
What my favorite thing that I ordered in the apartment while I was outside of the purple silverware, which I'm going to be honest, the morphine lets you access something inside of you that you're like, you know what, James wouldn't like this.
But he really
would. James would really like this. And I'm going to be honest, the first quiet moment I had to myself in this apartment, I skittered over into the kitchen and I opened up the drawer and I looked at the purple silverware and I was like, I'm home, baby. I'm home.
That is beautiful.
But the favorite thing I bought in here, I think I did a good job with the kitchen stuff.
These are good.
The octopus mug, the oversized octopus mug.
Oh, that was a morphine purchase?
That was a morphine purchase.
Nice. Is there anything in this room that wasn't a morphine purchase?
There is some stuff in the room. Oh, actually, I'm going to be honest. The cow skull that has a Gemini carving on it, that was a great morphine purchase.
I'm going to take it.
That should be the picture for the
if
podcast.
I have to guess what in this room did James purchase on morphine, the cow skull would be the first thing I would point to.
There's actually lots of stuff in here that is not morphine purchase and just my own insanity.
Is there anything that's here what's the thing that you've carried with you the most, like from place to place or apartment to apartment?
So I actually still have my childhood teddy bear that sits on my dresser. He's got like little flexible arms and he looks ratty as fuck. He looks like he's been through some shit. And so every time I wake up and see him in the morning, I'm like, you and me both, buddy. We both been through some shit.
What's your bear's name?
Radar.
It's backwards is forwards.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going for when I named him at 4. I was like, you know what I really need? A palindrome. Race car or radar were the only two options at that point.
Yeah, no.
Actually, a recent acquisition of something that maybe hasn't traveled with me from place to place, but has traveled with me in some big moments is the bowling pin.
That's a real bowling pin.
Yes, it's a regulation bowling pin. So One of the things I really got into last year was something I loved as a kid, but I hadn't really done as an adult. And I was in a place of my life where I was like, I really want to do something like I loved as a kid. I haven't done as an adult, and I like really want to like pull back into my life. One night, I had become friends with people at the bowling alley, and it got to the point where like I wasn't paying for things anymore. I like wasn't paying for the lanes, the shoes, the drinks. I had just gotten my first bowling ball, and I had become friends with them, and I ended up closing the bowling alley several times. But one night, I was just like walking around with them, and they were like, you know what, James, like, you need this bowling pin. And I was like, why do I need a bowling pin? And they're like, you just need it. I've never had a bowling pin in my life. It's such a weird, eclectic, bizarre, but it reminds me of like this very, very quiet moment where somebody looked at me and they were like, you really need this. And I was like, you know what? I really need that.
I love that.
Yeah.
What was the name of the bowling alley?
Stone Lanes.
Stone Lanes.
It's in Cincinnati, if anybody wants to go. It's on Xavier's campus.
They're just giving out bowling pins.
They're just giving out bowling pins. Just a lovely, lovely little thing. Yeah, so I think that's something that'll go with me probably anywhere else in my life.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Your house is on fire.
Uh-huh.
You don't have any pets. So what is the object that you're saving from the fire?
Guitar. Guitar's seen a lot of shit. Guitar has been in some shows with me. The guitar has been in some, has traveled many places.
Where'd you get the guitar?
I got the guitar in Texas, actually.
It's a Texan.
It's a Texan.
I'm surprised you didn't say the skull.
The cow skull? I can get that again. I'm not worried about that.
Where did you order that from?
It's called, there's a company. It's called Skull Bliss. I don't know how I found it.
Skull Bliss.
Please tell me how on morphine. I literally woke up the following morning and I had a text from them. Not only did I find them, all right? Not only did I find them, I have subscribed to them and cannot figure out how to unsubscribe from them.
No. What?
So I get texts from them every day where they're like, 50% off our new Longhorn skull. Are you feeling like a buffalo? No, I'm not. I don't want any more.
Yeah. That's how they get you. I think, so maybe their prime market is people who are in the hospital on.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're feeling death, clearly. Clearly. But it's actually quite beautifully carved. Like
Were you afraid of death?
Am I afraid of death?
Were you in the hospital? Was that something you were thinking about?
Do I feel like I flinched at the mention of death? I think I've definitely come to terms with it. Like it's one of those things that I hadn't really thought about before. But there were moments I felt like my mortality. The thing that I was most scared of was when they basically were like, hey, like we have to do this surgery. They're like, well, you've got a choice. We can do the surgery or we can wait a week and potentially dig into your brain. Your choice. I was like, cool. All right. So I guess we're doing this tomorrow. Let me text my realtor and let her know I can't pick up the keys.
Right.
But it wasn't. It's funny. It wasn't the fear of dying, right? Because at that point I was like, if that's what happens, that's what happens. Like, that's their fucking fault, and they get to have that, have that conversation. Joke's on them.
You can have my cow skull.
Exactly. I've already ordered it, bitch. What I was most afraid of, and I remember, because I asked a lot of questions. I was like, look, this is my first surgery. This is my first being put under. You are hacking into one of the most sensitive parts of the body. Like, what could happen? And they're like, well, it's just the surface. We're not really worried about side effects. And I was like, cool. I would like to know the consequences. And they're like, yes, of course, death is on the table. And I said, okay, but let's talk about some other stuff. They're like, well, you could lose a limb. And I was like, okay.
You're like my head? Is my head on
Is my head on the, like, no. You could throw a clot and a clot could get in your limb and then it would just die. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. Great. I was like, but let's talk about some other shit. And they're like, okay, well, you could lose a part of your personality, or you could lose memory, or you could lose parts of who you are. Like, you could lose that sort of stuff. And I remember sitting there that night, like, I wouldn't let my parents come back in and see me. I was like, hey, I need to do this alone. Sarah sat with me for a little bit, and we had some very serious talks. And I was like, hey, I just need to like cry for 30 minutes and like let me cry, and then we can go back to having fun, because I don't want to enter into tomorrow not having fun. Like, I'm Peter Pan, bitch. Like, let me be Peter Pan. But that night I thought about it and I was like, okay, what am I willing to lose? What am I willing to walk away from? And so it was less about death, because that's losing everything. I was like, that's like going to the roulette table and saying, put everything on 13 black and not getting 13 black. And the two things I actually said this in the next day. I said, look, guys, I'm really, really scared. This is the first time I've ever gone under. I don't think I'm ready for it. This is more of like a turn your brain off and go into it. And I looked at them and I said, if it comes down to it, right? If you're in there and I spring a leak and you have to do something, I was like, you can take a limb, you can take an ear, you can shave skin off, you can take all my hair, which is what you did, but I need you to leave my personality intact. I need you to leave who I am intact. And I need you to do everything you can and be as delicate as you can to make sure I don't lose memories. I was like, there are things I do not, like if there's stuff I don't want to lose, it's those things. And if you were to walk around this apartment, I could sit here and go, hey, like that item right there, that like dragon that's missing its wings, I need to fix it. But that was the first thing I painted. And I remember it was such a meditative process that I sat there and it made me feel like I had achieved this task that I could sit down and focus on, and it gave me a lot of strength. Or the bowling pin, right? I said, oh my God, here's the memory that I have attached to this. It was just such this crazy, like, healing moment for me. Or this fucking elephant sconce that I have on the wall. I bought on morphine, and I think it's one of the most beautiful lights I've ever seen in my life. And I just remember how much joy it brought me, of like how much of like weird ass James I could be. And I remember going into the bed. This is like literally right as they're about to take me into the room. So I get into the room and I kind of like reiterate that to them. And my neurosurgeon was amazing. He just, and his partner, they looked at me and they're like, we've just come to care about you so much, and we're not supposed to cross this boundary as a doctor, but like we are looking at you as family now. So it's like, understand this will be the most delicate we will ever be. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And a little fucked up, but all right. I'll be your son, right, like, for today.
If we didn't have this bond, would you take
less care? I was just like, okay. All right, but I'm glad I said what I said. And I didn't know this, but they put when they put you under, right, they put the mask on you that they tell you is oxygen, but what they don't fucking tell you is there's also anesthesia in it. Uh-huh. And so they're like talking to me. They're like 15 people going around, and the nurse is amazing, and the anesthesiologist is amazing. And he puts the mask on me and he's like, all right, like, just talk to me about this and like, how you feeling about this? And I was like, okay. And in my true ADHD mind, my mind was somewhere else. Like I was talking to him and I kind of turned off, but my mind was somewhere else. And I was like, you know what? If I had to lose any memories, I would totally lose memories of my ex and then like totally pass the fuck out. Like and woke up. Like the next thing I remember is waking up in the most beautiful room I've ever seen in my life.
Like Rivendell?
Sort of. Like, it was like I was fucking Frodo waking up being like, oh my God, the room is blue and beautiful.
Slow motion.
And I'm like 15 floors up in the air and all I see is Brooklyn, and it was snowing. And I was like, this is amazing. I had the thought later that it might have been the morphine that made the room as beautiful as it was. It might have
been the morphine because you were not in a very glamorous hospital.
No, it was not. It was a hospital. Yeah. But the blue was very soothing. The space, sure. I was finally by myself.
Oh, good.
It was amazing. And I was on morphine for basically 4 days straight.
That sounds amazing. I had morphine twice, I think, and it is the best I've ever felt.
It is. Yeah. I was happy to walk away from it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But everything just felt easy.
Yeah, everything
everything was quiet.
It makes a lot of sense why we have so many problems. Yeah.
But like, do we need to have problems with it? Yes, we do. We need to have problems with it.
We're not going to solve the opioid crisis.
No, we're not. We can't. But we could.
But we get it.
But we understand it. And I remember, like, you guys had sent me the blanket. And, like, one of the very first things that I asked for when I got in bed was, like, can I have the blanket? Oh. And, like, Sarah was there and my parents were there. And there were, like, little small things that I, like, had anchored me to the world because of memories that were there. Mm-hmm. Because they're pieces of you throughout time, right? They are, And not just pieces of you, they're pieces of other people that you've invited into your life. Like I've got a rock from Jerusalem when I sat on the side of a hill in the middle of the desert and wept because my life was coming back together. They are keystones to who we are. Mm-hmm. When I was in the hospital bed, these very, very small trinkets triggered memories flying back at me. And it was like when everybody left the room, it was the first thing I did, was like rattle through what memories I could find and like pull back to me. And most of them came back. Funnily enough, I lost the memories of my ex-wife for a very short period of time. And I was like, yes. And then they all came back and I was like, fuck. That's fine. She's a fine person. They're a piece of stained glass, right? They build the structure of who we are at the end of the day. And you can look around this apartment and get a pretty good idea of weird ass James and like who I am and just stuff that doesn't really look like it belongs together, but
it really does though. And I will say, morphine, adult brain or not, you manage to pick things that do go really well together. And it is really impressive. And what I was most excited to talk to you about for this episode was, it's podcast is called Objects of New York, and it's about New Yorkers and the objects that we love and create. And I was really excited to ask you about this because of your kind of whirlwind experience the past few months, moving back to New York. We're starting over.
Yeah.
Having a incredibly traumatic medical experience.
Yeah.
And then kind of furnishing your life from instinct. Kind of is how it felt to me. And
that's 100% what it was.
I was really excited to kind of like, so apparently this purple fork,
changed my life.
This murder instrument of a purple fork, and it is amazing. I should be kinder. They are amazing. I've got a great weight to them. They're great. I found it really great that like when you were at like kind of this very vulnerable level, like your brain picked what it wanted. And I was really, it's very interesting.
It's so funny that you say that because when I look at the things in this apartment, like how I would have furnished it, I don't know if I would have picked this furniture. Like, I don't know if it had been...
The couch is amazing.
Yeah, it's a little low, but I actually kind of dig that.
That's
like,
great.
I'm like, yeah, and it kind of goes with everything. And the subtle, like, I love the color purple, clearly. Even the front mat is like this really soft, it's got this like soft lavender border around it that like, I don't know if I would have had the courage to pick.
Right.
Right? There are things in this apartment, I don't know.
So you kind of got to treat yourself a little bit.
My Paisley comforter, that's just like absolute insanity. That's the one thing that I did miss. Like, I wish I had been able to go to like a warehouse or like a more kind of unique shop. And while I think some of these pieces are incredible, like the LP cabinet, I know that my LP collection is going to far outgrow that, right? I'm starting that over, and like, that's kind of cool. That's
kind of the interesting thing about the time in life that you're at, and like the pieces of furniture that you've surrounded yourself with are kind of the same in that like, they're really beautiful and really quality, but they're transitory. Yeah. It's kind of like you've come here, you're in a transitory kind of phase of life.
Big time.
In a big way, and you kind of got yourself the transitory package of everything.
The purple forks are never going anywhere.
I hope they don't.
In fact, they're only going to grow.
I can't wait to see your full menagerie. But that's kind of the great thing about furnishing too. Like one of the great things about New York City, obviously, is you can walk out your door and you'll find your next piece of furniture on the street.
Yes.
And the street gives, the street takes away. You can put this table out on the street, somebody will take it, and it will be their prized possession.
For the next however many years.
Totally. And we're all kind of in this transitory pool with each other. We're all pooling our resources.
Yeah.
And
it's like, this is going to be so bizarre. I don't know why my mind went here. The craniotomy. We're going to blame everything on the craniotomy. Sure. But have you heard about the trees that have the mycelial network underneath them? That's almost what it feels like, where it's like we're nourishing each other with like, hey, I've outgrown this, but I know that this is for somebody else.
I love it when people talk mycelium. Have you read Entangled Life by Cosmo Sheldrake? Merlin Sheldrake.
I'm sorry, first off.
Cosmo was his brother.
Okay. This man's name is Merlin Sheldrake?
That's correct. The brothers Sheldrake.
Is he a wizard?
Basically, he is a mycologist. He is a professional.
He just plays with With mushrooms all day?
On a professional level. And his brother Cosmo is the best musician, one of the best musicians.
Please send me a place. I really want to read. What's it? It's called Entangled Life.
So we'll wrap this up. But before we do, is there any final thoughts or?
Cherish your stuff.
Yeah.
And let it go when you're ready to let it go.
As Marie Kondo says, you have to thank it.
This does not, thank it.
Thank it and then let it go.
And then let it go. This does not bring me joy.
It's quite revolutionary. I should do that. I'm going to have a stoop sale in April. So you better,
I will be there. Can I bring stuff to the stoop sale?
Totally. 100%.
I don't know what I would bring, but I will bring something.
I can think of a few things.
Okay, look, listen.
No, you should keep all your stuff. Even Skull Bliss.
Apparently you can turn it into a lamp. Never mind. I don't need more light in this place.
I think we have enough lampshade ideas.
Stick with the bowling pin.
Yeah.
Get rid of the skull.
James, thank you so much.
Hey, Ellyn, thank you so much.